So what are you going to learn today? You're going to learn 5 different hacks on how you can be the smartest marketer in the room by leveraging AI. We're going to go really fast because I don't have a lot of time. So make sure you have your phones ready because you want to take photos of the slides that I have coming up next. So we're going to start off with talking about a case study. So if you were here from the last time I spoke at Affiliate World, I spoke about how we went from our Black Friday campaigns in 2022 to 2023. We went from 1.5 million to 7.5 million utilizing AI campaigns. And I spoke about optimizing and bidding and all of those kind of stuff. If you haven't watched that, please watch that because that's part 1. This is part 2. So part 1 is on AdWorld Prime. If you can watch that there, I think you will find a lot of value. This one is part 2. It's how we went from 7.5 mil to 14 million. And we're going to cover 5 things, right? So first, how can you 5x your creative output? If creative is the game, and you cannot hire 20,000 people in your team, how do you 5x your output and create world-class creatives that perform every single time? Next, we want to talk about is how can we double the speed at which we test? Because, again, one test can lead to like hundreds of % of increase in conversion rates. So how do we do that? And last but not least, next is automating copywriting. So I know a lot of you all probably use ChatGPT already, and you're like, I use ChatGPT for copy. Like, what's the big deal, right? But how do you automate it so it gets so smart that it can produce world-class copywriting every single time without you having to prompt it again all over again, right? And then we're going to talk about how to turn data into intelligence so you can use the data to drive strategy. Because the human can only do so much, right? Like, I mean, as a human, I can compare this versus this and see, OK, the conversion rates are better here, so this works. But how do you predict trends? How do I predict what to sell next? How do I predict which creative is going to work versus the other? How do I predict which copy or which VSL is going to work versus the other? That's where the intelligence comes in. And last but not least, we're going to talk about how to reduce CPMs. That's the big one, because we know it keeps rising all the time, and we don't know why. So let's get into it. The first one is how to 5x your creative output by leveraging AI. So this was the hardest one, right? Because I couldn't hire, but I needed to increase creative output, and I'll explain why in a second. So why is creative so important? Creatives are important because if you speak to Google, Google will tell you that in your campaigns, creative is 70% of the game.